1961, a red and white twin bicycle launched his boxing career. When the 12-year-old Clay's beloved bicycle was stolen in October 1954, he reported the theft to Louisville, Kentucky, peace officer Joe Martin, and vowed to pummel the culprit. Martin, who was also a boxing trainer, suggested that the upset youngster first learn the way to fight, and he took Clay under his wing. 6 weeks later, Clay won his first bout in a very decision. He was originally named in honor of a white abolitionist. The fighter, like his father, was named for Cassius Marcellus Clay, a 19th-century farmer and anti-slavery crusader who emancipated the 40 slaves he inherited from his father. The abolitionist, a relative of Kentucky Senator Politico, edited an anti-slavery newspaper, commanded troops within the Mexican-American War, and served as minister to Russia under President Lincoln. In defying Southern conventions of the time, Clay faced over death threats. He was beaten, stabbed and shot by political opponents, but lived to the age of 92. Before becoming called Muhammad Ali, he changed his name to Cassius X. The morning after defeating Liston, the new heavyweight champion confirmed reports that he had become a member of the State of Islam. With civil rights worker at his side, the champ told reporters that he had renounced his surname, which he called a slave name, and would be called Cassius X until Nation of Islam leader Muhammad gave him a holy name. That name, Muhammad Ali, was bestowed on March 6, 1964. Ali was banned from boxing for 3 years. As the Vietnam War raged in 1967, Ali refused to serve within the U.S. military for religious reasons. The heavyweight champion was arrested, and also the Big Apple State Athletic Commission immediately suspended his boxing license and stripped him of his title. Ali was convicted of draft evasion, sentenced to the most of 5 years in prison, and fined $10,000, although he remained free while the conviction was appealed. In 1970, the Big Apple State Supreme Court ordered his boxing license reinstated, and he returned to the ring by knocking out Jerry Quarry in October 1970. The subsequent year, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Ali's conviction in a very unanimous decision. Ali starred in an exceedingly Broadway musical. During his 43-month forced exile from the ring, Ali took to the stage within the persona of the musical Buck White. The assembly opened inside New York's George Abba Theater on December 2, 1969. But Ali's stage career would be a quick one. Buck White closed 4 nights later after just 7 performances. In spite of the limited run, Ali, who played a militant black lecturer, received decent reviews. He sings with a pleasing, slightly impersonal voice, acts without embarrassment, and moves with innate dignity, wrote a brand New York Times reviewer. He does himself proud. 6. He recorded an album of spoken verse. The loquacious Ali was boxing's poet, composing verses during which he taunted opponents and praised himself. His iambic pentameter was so popular that Columbia Records released a 1963 vocable album called I Am the Greatest, during which the 21-year-old rising star performed this poetry. Back my accompaniment, before an audience. The album also included 2 songs by the boxer, including a canopy of the Ben E. King hit Stand By Me. Ali has Irish roots. Perhaps not surprising given Ali's gift of gab, but his great-grandfather Abe Grady was an Irishman who emigrated to the U.S. and settled in Kentucky within the 1860s. There he married a freed slave, and one amongst their grandchildren was Ali's mother, Odessa Lee Grady Clay. In 2009, Ali visited his great-grandfather's ancestral hometown of Ennis, Ireland, and met fellow members of the O'Grady clan. 8. He fought one and all his most famous bouts at 4 a.m. In 1974, a 32-year-old Ali earned a title shot against undefeated 25-year-old champion George Foreman. Seeking to come up with positive publicity for his country, Zaire's dictatorial president Mobutu Sese Seko paid each fighter $5 million to stage the fight in his capital city of Kinshasa, so as for American audiences to observe the fight. Board clock time. The bout began within the early morning hours before the sun dawned on Africa. In what was dubbed the Rumble within the jungle, Ali won in an 8-round knockout to regain the heavyweight title that had been stripped from him 7 years prior. 9. His Olympic laurel wreath could also be submerged on a reverb. After graduating high school, the 18-year-old fighter traveled to Rome and won the Sunshine Heavyweight Laurel Wreath within the 1960 Summer Olympics. Ali wrote in his 1975 autobiography that after returning to Louisville, he threw his laurel wreath off a bridge and into the river to protest the racism that he still encountered in his hometown. The account has been disputed, however, and it's believed that Ali lost the medal instead. During the 1996 Summer Olympics, at which he lit the cauldron within the opening ceremonies, Ali received a replacement laurel wreath. 10. The gloves he wore to defeat Liston earned him extra money than the victory itself. Almost 50 years to the day after Ali captured the heavyweight championship for the primary time, an anonymous buyer purchased the gloves he wore to defeat Liston within the 7th round for $836,000. Ali only earned $630,000 for the victory itself.